Good morning. It's Sunday, and Tony Dattino here with you, talking about a CBS segment this morning that I saw that I just almost want to pull the hair out of my head and scream. And you might say, God, why do I feel that way? Well, I normally don't do Sunday Live with Tony's. I am traveling tomorrow, so I'm not going to be doing one tomorrow. But more importantly, this has got me so on the edge of my seat and so ready to explode on what I observed this morning on a CBS segment, which I think is very reactive to the science. And I say with tongue in cheek because we've heard about the science for the last 3 years, and yet we missed one of the most important elements of science or research and brain work over the last 3 years, and we're finally waking up to it now that we're hitting the wall and kids are paying the price for it. So what am I talking about? Well, when this whole thing started, I was doing Live with Tony broadcast that talked about the impact that social isolation and locking kids away from their friends and keeping them in their house and doing remote learning or virtual learning was going to have a significant impact on their long-term socialization, academic schoolwork, their well-being. And it's coming home to roost. On this report this morning, 4th and 8th grade reading scores are at a 40-year low. Math scores haven't been this bad since the beginning of capturing this stuff in 1969. The Washington Post, NPR, kids are having trouble learning, they're more depressed. Psychology centers are overloaded with kids coming to look for help. Suicide rates are up. Kids are doing 17 minutes less physical activity every day, which you accumulate over a couple of years. And the mental stresses and impacts of all of this are significant. To the point where I heard a gentleman that seems to have a handle on this on one level, Jeffrey Canada from the Harlem Children's Zone, basically talking about we may risk having a lost generation of kids, engineers and doctors and professionals and people that help us have a better life and a better society. And so it's the dumbing down of the generation because of the lack of understanding the science of the human mind. And what am I talking about? I have been at understanding the neuroscience and the learning science, the learning to learn, research, and experience for over 25 years. I learned from Tony Buzan, who is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and a gentleman by the name of Richard Israel, who are two of the most amazing mentors anybody could ever have in their life. I subscribe to a number of newsletters, from the Johns Hopkins to the Cleveland Clinic to the University of California, Berkeley School, Harvard. Currently working on a project with MIT and Princeton, Columbia Universities, teaching students something we call mnemonics. And so I listened to this broadcast, and the first thing that comes to my mind is I've been saying for 3 years, the lack of social interaction hurts people, seniors, middle age. Put people in a cage or a prison cell, lock them down, and watch what happens. It's torment. It impacts their being of life and being well. Exercise is one of the most fundamental principles for the human mind. And we're hearing about kids stopped exercising, stopped going to playgrounds, stopped going out and doing things, as did a lot of adults. Exercise is crucial to the brain because our brain uses about a third of the oxygen, 20 to 30% of the oxygen we consume. And aerobics is like anaerobics for the brain. It's like amazing. It's what we do to get oxygen flowing through our body that then is used for the brain for our thinking and creativity and our memories. Mental challenges. Well, we took away a lot of those mental challenges from kids when we put them on virtual, and half the kids didn't enjoy virtual learning at all. They need the tactile, they need that hands-on, they need that teacher in front of them that they can see. And boy, have I heard stories about kids and what they've done during virtual learning. It's horrifying. How about then impacting their mental resilience, the stress that they put themselves under and the lack thereof of the resilience that comes along with that. And we could go on, but there's enough of research that's been done on factors that are important for our memories and our brain health. And all of these factors appear to have been ignored by the educational community and those to be that were doing the shutdowns without recognizing what the longer term impacts would be, especially to kids. So goes, we talk about the science as it relates to COVID, and yet we've lost the science and research as it relates to a generation of kids. So I listened to this report on the CBS Good Morning Show today, and they start to talk to a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Canada at the Harlem Children's Zone here in New York. And as I watched that, first, there's somebody who recognizes what this impact is, but more importantly, not just recognizing it, but wants to do something about it. And as he well describes, it's not just with kids that are in these poor zones, but it's impacted kids across all ethnicities, all income levels. Yeah, isolating the kids at all incomes, taking their exercise away, putting through stress and not knowing how to deal with it, not giving them mental challenges that stimulate learning activities and create the brain circuits that give us lifelong learning, not teaching the kids how to learn. Learning to learn is an interesting topic, but it doesn't appear we're teaching it anywhere, yet it's the fundamentals to all of it. And it brings me back to a keynote that I did in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania a number of years ago, when I asked the high school students in the audience, when do we use our memories? And the young boy got up and said, Mr. Datino, is that a trick question? And I looked at him, I said, no, that's a serious question. When do we use our memories? And he kind of looked befuddled and gave me, Mr. Datino, I use my memory all day long, from the time I get up and what school books I got and what I'm going to wear and where I need to go and what classes I have and what tests. And I said, exactly, we use our memories all day long, and especially when we're in school. So what drives me nuts? Well, I asked the second question. When have you been taught how to learn or how our memories work? And a teacher in the room yells from the back and says, we don't teach that. And I then say, wow, isn't it kind of silly for something that we use all day long in our brain? We haven't learned how to learn, and we haven't learned how to use our memories or how to enhance them and comprehension and retention and recall and creativity. We haven't learned any of that in our schoolwork. And so we get on TV this morning, we see kids struggling for a whole lot of reasons that are based on years and years of research, and then I kind of scratch my head and say, where is the school system? Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the kids into school longer each day. We're going to enhance and build more tutoring into the process. We're going to maybe not have summer breaks for the kids. Yeah, just do what I call rote learning. Just pound it into their heads. And that's going to fix the problem. And are we teaching, everybody, 24 years of running the USA Memory Championship and seeing the major difference that people who have entered, from school kids from 12 years old to 70-year-olds, and seeing the differences it's made in their lives and what they've been able to achieve, you can now put the pieces together and understand why I wanted to scream, and why I said, I'm going to take a Live with Tony on this Sunday, and I'm going to suggest maybe there's a better way than adding hours to the school day. Maybe there's a better way than cutting off holidays for the kids and not giving them the resilience and the breaks that they need. maybe there's a time to figure out how does learning work? What goes on in terms of a brain? How can we teach kids at any age, as well as adults, the elements of long-term brain health and memory and creativity? It's time at this point of crises that we begin to reflect and relook. And the timing is amazing because I had my team over the weekend doing some work to respond to a parent who's got two 9-year-olds, soon to be 10, that has struggled with their learning. And he said, my goodness, in my life I've struggled with learning, and I started to learn and find out for myself there are certain systems and ways of enhancing your memory and enhancing your comprehension that build long-term retention of information. And I've read about your USA Memory Championship website. I've seen you've got a course called Maximum Memory Mastery. We've got a course called The 6 Key Factors of Long-Term Brain Health and Memory. And he says, I want you to teach this to my two 9, 10-year-olds because I don't want their lives to struggle as much as I've had to struggle with mine. And so we've just put together an outline of what that's going to look like, and I'm excited to review that with him next week. But I do plan to call the Harlem Children's Zone tomorrow and maybe suggest there may be something other than just adding hours to the day and days to the week and weeks to the year that may help these kids become memory champions, not as in the USA Memory Championship, but maybe as in their life, where their learning skills will take them to wherever they wish to go. And I'm so proud of the number of students we've coached through the years that have been coached by the colleagues that have been associated with the Memory Championship that have gone on to be medical schools and doctors. And so when Jeffrey Canada was talking about that this morning, about engineers and doctors, I'm saying, boy, do we have a solution for you based on the experience we've had with hundreds of students and kids. I'm going to calm down now. It's almost time for lunch. I'm going out for some pizza here. New York pizza is as good as it gets. I'm going to go get some New York pizza today for lunch. And tomorrow, as you can see, I'm still in New York. Got one more day. Evelyn gets her next eye checkup tomorrow morning at 7:30, and if all goes well, by 11 o'clock, I'll be heading back to Florida, where they tell me it's going to be 90 degrees today, which is a little bit different than the wind and the cold that I felt this morning. But I'm going to pursue this. This obviously has riled me up a little bit, and you can tell a little my passion. I'm trying not to explode, and yet as I listened and wrote notes on this CBS Good Morning show, I'm like, God, why do our educators continue to miss the boat on the fundamentals of what can be? And depriving kids of an education that can take them to places they just never imagined possible. Have a good Sunday. I hope your teams are playing this afternoon, and we all can't win on these. As I found yesterday, one of my teams did not win that I wanted to win. So we've got 2 more games this afternoon, and hopefully we'll all come back for next week's Final Four and the big championship in April. Have a good weekend, and reach out to me at a.tino@aol.com. That's ADOTTINO@aol.com if there's any resonance that you've got with this broadcast. Let's see if we can put a team of people together and see if we can help these kids in school and make life a little bit better for them. But more importantly, let's make life reach them, let their lives reach their potentials of what can be.